Two discs, same flight numbers, one at 166 grams, one at 148 grams. Today, we're gonna be doing a comparison between a lightweight Halo destroyer versus the new Fission Timelapse. Could this be the people's Timelapse? Today, we're gonna find out. We're gonna do some distance comparisons, some angle comparisons, and see which one goes further, see which one is better. Let's get it. Yesterday was the first time that I threw the Fission Timelapse, and this thing was definitely acting quite flippy, especially to the first Timelapse that I had ever thrown, which that thing was quite beefy. Honestly, I could hardly throw it. It was so stable. Which is why I'm honestly excited to test this one out some more, because this could truly be the people's Timelapse for us mere mortals that don't have a ton of arm speed. But let's give these a few rips into the field, see what we think, and go from there. Ooh, a little bit of turn out of it. And the nice little fade. I threw that pretty soft, pretty easily. It seemed like it got decent distance. We were testing this Halo destroyer out just the other day, so we kind of have an idea of how it flips up a little bit if you watch that video. Threw that one a little bit higher. Flipped up the flat. I didn't get that one as flat though as I got the Timelapse. Kind of a different flight there. I'd like to say those were just a couple of warm-up throws that at least made it to 300. You saw how I kind of got that nose up on the destroyer. Now I'm going to try to throw these both max power the entire time after that, just to see what true distance we can get out of them. Hopefully they go further than 330. I guess you just never know. But we'll start off with the Heiser flip, then work to flat and Anheiser. I have to say the Timelapse kind of feels weird in my hand. I don't know if it's the grip that I hold the disc with, but it's super domey, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but I don't know. I don't feel like I have the best of grip on it. After all, I do kind of grip like there's always a little space here. So I kind of power grip a little differently, I feel like, than most people, because I feel like most people have their whole palm in it like that. And I just kind of keep my fingers up, and there's always some space here. With the dominess and how the rim is shaped, for whatever reason, my grip feels weird. I don't think that's gonna go very far because I got it so low, but it flipped up the flat perfectly, actually. I just needed to give it a little bit more height and we could have really gotten some distance out of it. The destroyer flipped up the flat, but you can kind of see the hard fade at the end. And we're not really working with much wind out here today. It's a very calm day. So I feel like that's a pretty true flight to it. Okay, so we're getting a little loose with the destroyer, going 350 that time. So we're working our way up, but the Timelapse I just threw into the dirt. So I'm gonna try that Heiser flip again, just to see. I don't think that was a fair comparison. That's a little bit better. I still didn't get any distance off of it, but what we did see, you know, I think it was still too low, but what we did see, it's a lot less stable than that destroyer, and I'll try to throw the destroyer again, kind of similar. But the Timelapse seems to like Heiser flip immediately, but then it has some turn to it, like a lot more turn than the destroyer did. It's like the destroyer only flips up to flat, and then it has a pretty mean Heiser, or fade, I should say. Well, I haven't really been totally in love with my Timelapse shots, so we're gonna throw that one more time and hopefully we can get a better shot. I'm also just not throwing very far this morning. I expected to at least be in the 360s to 370s, and I don't think I've even broke 360 yet, or maybe I did once. That's gonna be a good one. Yeah, the Timelapse is way flippier than the Halo destroyer, and I'm curious if that's the Fission plastic. I assume it is, because the destroyer is even lighter than that Timelapse by quite a bit too. 166 versus 148, and the destroyer just kind of flips the flat, especially on this calm day. The other day when we were throwing this and there was wind, you could see it getting toyed around with more. Definitely wanted to turn a little bit more depending on the wind, and today, now that we have like a very calm day, it seems like it just wants to flip to flat. A little bit too much Heiser on it, didn't get all the way to flat, but right there is the shot I've been looking for out of the Timelapse. 391, that's a bomb for me, and I felt like I threw him the same like power. The problem is I didn't get the flip out of the destroyer and the turn out of the destroyer like I did the time lapse. So right there, the time lapse could have more distance potential with that Heiser flip at least. The problem is I think you're gonna have to be a little bit more precise with your angles, because if you're not, it's either just gonna roll over, or if you throw it too high, too much Heiser, then you're not gonna get the turn out of it. Now that I finally got a good one and I like the results out of it, we're gonna try to throw some more flat shots. So these first two, I'm just gonna throw like pretty mediocre, not try to throw them as far as I can, but just try to throw a smooth shot and see what we can get out of it. So maybe 60–70% power. So I feel like that's a super smooth flight, super smooth shot. So maybe if you have like a slightly slower arm speed, like if that's your max arm speed, I think you're still gonna be able to get some turn out of it. You're just gonna have to throw it flatter. And the destroyer, it just goes dead straight. So no turn out of it. Again, slightly more stable than the time lapse. So not as much effort there, but still going about 320 to 330. Now we'll try to throw them a little bit harder on that flat release and just see if these turn over at all. Yeah. So I'm gonna definitely have to throw that a little bit higher. You can see the time lapse immediately out of the hand, just going right. No real fight there. Maybe if I got it higher, it had time, but not with that shot. I mean, maybe a baby turn out of it, but not really. I feel like we're really gonna have to throw that on a little bit of Anheiser since there's no wind out here to get the max distance. Definitely still straighter out of every other destroyer I've thrown, but still has some nice stability there. Even though that I gave the time lapse a little bit more power, a little bit more speed, it just didn't have the stability to stay in the air like the destroyer did. I also probably didn't give it the height either. So this time we're gonna try flat one more time, but we're gonna try to give it a little bit more air. There it kind of gets out of it a little bit. And even that shot, I feel like I even put on a little bit of Anheiser. So that wasn't completely flat. Probably a little bit of Annie, kind of saw it rock right. I don't know why it's so hard for me to throw a flat shot, but I hate it. Like even that was probably a little bit of Heiser. That was a good throw with the destroyer. It seems like I can't really get any good distance when I throw the time lapse flat. Whether I'm throwing it too hard and it just rolls, or I'm not giving it enough power. I feel like when it works best is if I'm just throwing a nice smooth shot. And that's when I felt like, you know, we still went 330, but I didn't try very hard. When I'm actually powering up on them is when I'm getting terrible flights out of them. And that's where the destroyer is a little bit better, I feel like. So now we'll just throw some Annie shots or try to flex these a little bit to get some good distance out of them. You know, other than that 391, I haven't really been getting major distance out of these. I don't know if that's because I'm weak today. I feel like I am, but also the Heiser flip's just easier because I can throw it on Heiser and then I can just throw it as hard as I want and get a true flight, get a S-line type of flight out of them. Oh, just completely overpowered it. That never stood a chance. Too much angle, too much power. That shouldn't be bad. I don't know if you can see that though, because it is way right. I did yank it a little bit. I got it on some great Anheiser where it turned the whole way. We'll see what that comes in at. There was the money shot with the destroyer. That's kind of what I've been waiting on. Putting it on a little bit of Anheiser, and it went 416 feet. Pretty good shot for me. Now we're gonna try that one more time just to see if we can make the time lapse flex a little bit. I'm just not, I don't think how I play and my skill level, I just don't think I can do it with the time lapse. Even that one, I gave the destroyer just too much. All right, we're gonna go for one last shot. This is just a pure distance shot. We're going Heiser flip with the time lapse and flat to slight Anheiser with the destroyer. See if we can get both of these close to 400 and just see which one I can get to push further. That might be okay, but I just don't think I have it. Not enough turn on that one either. All right, well, I think I'm just exhausted. All right, guys, there it is. The Fission Timelapse, 166 grams versus 148 gram Halo Destroyer. The Destroyer definitely had a little bit more stability to it. Probably this nice durable plastic doing that to it. You know, what I'll say about the Timelapse is I feel like it's the people's Timelapse. If you have a little slower arm speed, you're probably gonna love this Timelapse. I definitely have to mess with it a little bit more, learn the disc a little bit better, but I did get a few decent throws with it. That 391, if I could do that every time, it'd be a beautiful Heiser flip disc. But let me know what you guys think. What's next? Leave it down in the comments. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you in the next one.